Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're actually going to be talking about financial freedom within this market. And there's a lot of assets in the space that do have that potential. But the problem is that a lot of people want it tomorrow, or they want it by the end of this bull run. They want it by the end of, December, whatever the case may be, right? Because when we're talking about this, a lot of people want things fast, but they don't realize that if you were to invest money right now into some of these assets, when we're talking about XRP, HBAR, QNT, you forget about it, you come back in 4 years, 5 years, whatever the case may be, right? A lot of these assets have the potential to be worth, 10 to 100 to 1,000 plus X times their current prices. And when I think a lot of people don't realize the fact that, a lot of people work at their daily job 60 years sometimes, right? I mean, some people, they start a job at 20 and they don't quit that job until they are 65 years old and retired. A lot of people will be patient that way. But the problem is that people won't be patient within this market. And I think that is the downfall to a lot of people. So overall, when we're talking about these assets, we're going to be talking about XRP, we're going to be talking about HBAR, and we're also going to be talking about QNT. I've been mentioning a lot of these assets. I've mentioned XRP under 30 cents. I've mentioned HBAR under 20 cents. I've mentioned QNT again under $50, and these assets have been exploding in price. So when we're talking about the future of finance, when we're talking about what is happening within this entire market, we talk about the BIS. So we do see here central banks and the BIS explore what a retail CBDC might look like. They're talking about 7 central banks and the BIS, of course, taking forward their work on retail central bank digital currencies and analyze policy options and practical implementation issues. Now they're always talking about interoperable, right? They want to make sure that it's pretty much plug and play, if you will, with each other, and it's pretty much easy to upgrade these systems or even just implement these systems. Now we do see a lot of these banks. So this bank is actually the Bank of Sweden. It's the national bank. And then we also have other ones, right? We have the Bank of Canada, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, European Central Bank, Federal Reserve. I'm telling you guys, when we're talking about a lot of these banks, when we're talking about what is happening, these are massive giants within the space, and they're talking about making a trust, privacy, and stable financial system. They're talking about the future of finance. They're talking about what is being built right now behind closed doors, right? They're talking about how it could best serve people and businesses in a fast-changing technological landscape. Of course, they're talking about how fast it is moving, of course. Now, when we talk about these, look at the main people who are talking here. First off, we do see Christine Lagarde. We see, I really don't know how to say his name. I always butcher it, so I'm just going to say the head of the BIS. And then we also see the Bank of England Deputy Governor for Financial Stability and Working Group Co-Chairman. And a lot of these people are huge in regards to being higher up on the food chain within the central banks and banks in general. We already know that Christine Lagarde was sitting at the table with Chris Larson and even Brad Garlinghouse. Now, when we're talking about this, Ripple will play a huge role in this. There's no doubt about that. We're going to be talking about that. So let's actually discuss the future of central banks. And we're talking about the massive banks that are under Ripple. So we always talk about this. This goes back to February 2nd, 2021. Here's the list of leading partners of Ripple and how they use them, right? So overall, there's a lot of banks here. We see American Express, we see MoneyGram. Of course, MoneyGram's no longer with them, but we know that a lot of these banks are already working with them still. We see Bank of America, right? They're basically utilizing Ripple's technology because they do see that it has the ability to integrate with them, whether these platforms and capabilities that we built or partnerships that we have are the likes of Ripple or Swift. These are fintechs that we're partnering with. Of course, American Express and Santander, utilizing technology since like pretty much almost day one back in 2017, right? Now, this is to streamline cross-border payments. Again, when we're talking about cross-border payments, it's a $100 trillion plus market. Now, we also see SBI. SBI is the biggest partnership for Ripple, and they have not, departnered from them at all. In fact, they've just pretty much been ramping up adoption overseas as well. Now, we do see here SBI has partnerships with both Ripple and R3. And again, a lot of people think that R3 is a big, oh, they're competing with, Ripple. They're not. A lot of these are interoperable assets or interoperable technologies that have the potential to pretty much plug and play every single financial system around the world. So when we talk about this, this is an easy model to really kind of look at in regards to pretty much allowing money flows all day long, 365 days of the year, 24/7. So I think that this is great. But we also see that SBI Holdings has 47 banks within its platform. And I think that this is a huge partnership when we talk about this. But there's so many of them that are utilizing Ripple on a daily basis, right? I mean, 300 plus financial institutions. Now, we always look at the list of the top 100 banks and how, 38 of them are already within Ripple. So Ripple is the big leading name here. But it doesn't mean that other institutions cannot, be utilized. As a matter of fact, we come over here to the latest news, right? And we see that 500 financial institutions are using RippleNet, and RippleNet used by 21% of banks and PSPs. So we're talking about a huge update to RippleNet being utilized by massive, banks and financial institutions around the world. But we always talk about this as well. We talk about financial inclusion. Why do you think they always want to pretty much share this financial inclusion idea? This is coming from Interledger, of course, so I've always talked to you guys about how big Interledger is. We've always talked about the Interledger protocol as well with grasping all of the money. Now, in regards to this, right, financial inclusion, it goes all the way back to MTech with even Hedera Hashgraph, right? They're basically trying to build a financial inclusion area around the world where anyone and everyone could connect to a central bank and utilize central bank digital currencies, or CBD cash, if you will, as well. But the best thing about MTech is, again, we already know that they are working with Hedera Hashgraph, IBM, and Microsoft as well, utilizing, Hedera Hashgraph's trust layer, which is the ABFT compliancy factor. Now, we do see here their scope is the digital cash infrastructure project New Dawn, which we've already talked about multiple times and how huge that is. If you guys do want to learn more about that, I have a ton of videos within that space. But we also talk about the fact that look at how easy it is in regards to the features of even the Central Bank of Bahamas, the Sand Dollar, right? Now, when we talk about this, this is Sand Dollar USD Bank account, Sand Dollar USD stablecoin for remittances and B2B payments, Sand Dollar / digital US dollar remittances and reserves. So when we're talking about what the future could look like, we're talking about all of these banks having their, CBDC, in this case, the Sand Dollar, also being able to have a USD bank account that you will basically be able to transact with all day long. And also, we're talking about B2B payments and remittances as well, which are huge markets. When we talk about the B2B market on this channel in regards to XRP, I think XRP is doing incredible things with B2B payments. That is a massive billion-dollar plus industry. Actually, I think it's trillions. We're talking about SMEs being billions of dollars. So SMEs are also pretty big. That's under Ripple's name as well. So B2Bs is like trillions of dollars as well. So let's jump into Hedera Hashgraph as well. So HBAR is going to play a leading role as well in regards to being the most utilized DLT technology out there. And I think a lot of banks will be seeing that and actually joining the governing council as well as we foster into the new age technology. We do see Shinhan Bank, Standard Bank, two large banks that are also working with XRP as well. And again, when we talk about these banks, they're not, only specific to one asset. We're talking about interoperability. They could easily connect with and utilize both technologies on a daily basis. But we always talk about the payments on Hedera. Extremely secure, real-time, and cost-effective payments. Now, again, this is real-time settlement, low and predictable fees, regulatory compliance as well. Again, when a lot of people always ask me, do you think that the SEC will go after Hedera? No, they are regulated. They are compliant with them along the way. Now, when we talk about the token service, this is the biggest piece of the pie for HBAR. We do see central bank digital currencies. Again, we are always talking about CBDCs because CBDCs are pretty much the end game for us. That is where anybody and everyone who is everyone, right, will be able to utilize these technologies without even understanding them or even knowing that they are in existence. HBAR, though, all of these assets that I talk about, people won't realize they are using them until they finally figure out what they are. And by that time, it's going to be too late to get, 100 for a dollar or whatever the case may be, right? The prices of these assets are going to increase year over year, as we've already seen in the past. But again, we even see how it's going to be utilized within stablecoins and cryptocurrencies. But CBDCs are the biggest piece of the pie because this is monetary authority and typically deployed on permission blockchain frameworks, but utilizing Hedera consensus service in combination to preserve privacy while enabling transparency and trust for national and international payments. And guess what they want over here? They want trust. They want public welfare. They want stability. They want a broader financial system. It all plays hand in hand with what a lot of these assets are trying to do. And I think that that is the biggest piece of the pie that a lot of people aren't looking at in regards to cryptocurrencies. And I think adoption for crypto is going to pretty much thrive going forward from here. We even see here finance at a fraction of the cost. By 2023, digital transaction values could reach 6.7 trillion globally. And when we already talk about ISO 222 tokens going live in November of 2022, we're talking about a massive new age of digital currencies. We're talking about a massive new age of utility tokens being utilized on a massive scale. And we also talk about an entire new digital framework within the transactional and finance sectors. So again, when we're talking about these are massive assets to really hold. And I still, to me personally, having HBAR as my number one hold makes me feel even more confident within the idea of seeing what's happening behind closed doors with HBAR. Connecting all of these dots, doing more and more research on this asset has told me, listen, HBAR is a gem in the making, and this is disruptive technology. Hashgraph technology is the first of its kind in this space right now, and HBAR is pretty much the leading name for it. They're doing things beyond all of these other assets. So overall, HBAR is an incredible choice, and I think it's extremely undervalued at the current prices. But we also talk about QNT. QNT, the plug and play aspect for a lot of these assets. I know that a lot of people compare HBAR to QNT, and they're saying that, HBAR, to QNT, it's completely two different things. But again, when we're talking about a lot of these assets, I think QNT is just allowing for a lot of these other assets to be interoperable with each other through the DLN or the distributed ledger network. Again, when we're talking about DLTs, we're talking about, DAG as well, Tempo, blockchain, all of these other DLT technologies, right? It's all through the Overledger DLT gateway, which we've already discussed on this channel before, that HBAR could pretty much allow for a lot of these other systems or like the banking systems to connect through Overledger and also Hyperledger Fabric. So when we're talking about that, QNT already leverages Overledger, but they also work with Hyperledger Fabric. So when we talk about QNT versus HBAR, I don't think that we should be talking about it like that, because again, QNT is not trying to come after HBAR's marketplace or market, overall goal. These are all assets that could connect with each other and work with each other and utilize each other's overall, factors in regards to HBARs, 10,000 transactions per second and so forth, right? So again, when we're talking about the solutions here, we're talking about multi-ledger tokens, we're talking about end-to-end DLT access, cryptocurrency payments. We also talk about Overledger. Again, when I was talking about Overledger, this is to connect and play with APIs with a lot of those cross-border payments and movement of funds, of course. And then we also see Bitcoin down here as well. But here are the solutions for distributed ledger technologies. We talk about Overledger for Oracle blockchain platforms. I've talked about this and I've discussed it multiple times with a lot of people. And when we're talking about this, we already know that Oracle is a massive leading service around the world. If you actually look at Oracle and connect the dots with Oracle, there's actually a lot of companies already utilizing it. And then we also see Overledger for Corda, and again, Overledger for Hyperledger Fabric. Like I said, this is for plug and play. We talk about Hyperledger Fabric with HBAR because HBAR could allow for a lot of these other companies to utilize Hyperledger Fabric by being able to plug and play with it. And again, Overledger also provides a standard API for working with it. So when we're talking about that, and again, here's Hyperledger Basu, which we know that HBAR is utilizing this technology actually for their V2 of smart contracts. So again, a lot of these assets are already connected to one another through some way already down the road. All right. They're not all coming for each other's necks. I think that's the biggest problem within this space is a lot of people are comparing one asset to the other and saying, hey, this one's better than this one, so you should jump out of that asset and get... No, they are all going to be utilized in their own way. But QNT is also a giant in the space. I've already discussed that, right? Here's their use cases: facilitating a global ecosystem for digital assets, enabling open access to CBDCs for the first time, unlocking the potential for stablecoin and commercial banks. So pretty much all of these assets have similar use cases, but they're all going about it in a different way. Now, QNT, like I said, is doing plug and play for a DLN to connect all DLTs together, essentially, at the end of the day. But we also talk about Hedera Hashgraph using Hyperledger, and we talk about, a lot of these other assets in this space doing incredible things within, a lot of these other technologies. We talk about Hyperledger, we talk about Hyperledger Basu, we talk about, Overledger, all of these other things. And, HBAR is not trying to kill one or the other in regards to that. And I think that that's the biggest problem right now. But overall, when we're talking about these three assets and we're talking about, long-term financial freedom, these three assets, in my opinion, and I trust me, I hold other assets. I'm not trying to single out any other asset. I think there's a lot of incredible assets out there in this space that are doing a lot of great things in the financial sectors. But I'm just saying these three in general have a lot of potential behind them to be utilized in trillion-dollar plus marketplaces, and they're extremely undervalued right now because we are not in a utility-driven market yet, and we won't be until we are actually in a utility market, most likely by 2022, so on, right? Because that's when ISO 222 tokens get accepted into the overall system, and we're still building CBDCs out entirely, so we still have some time. But overall, when we're talking about financial freedom, these three assets always come to mind because these are so big in regards to what they are doing. So I hope that kind of clarifies that in regards to these three assets. So overall, thank you all for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on. If you guys don't want free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.